What's going on, guys? Thanks to the enormous support the last video got, we're back again. And this time I'm going to be taking shots at the best players in the league. Disclaimer time. I am not an expert in hockey or player analysis. In fact, I'm just some asshole who has way too much fun pissing off the internet. These guys are superstars, so if you find me going after things other than their playing skill, that's a pretty good reason. So before you mash that dislike button and leave a comment with really high sodium content, just remember, it's only game. Why you have to be mad? First off, we got Ryan Getzlaf of the Anaheim Ducks, and if you thought I was going to sit here and just make some more ball jokes, you could not have been more correct. Now, I'm sure that even though he has no hair left, he still has his comb. He just can't part with it. I'm not saying he's completely bald. I'm just saying that I'll probably find Waldo before I find his hairline. Speaking of which, I saw a bunch of rabbits jumping backwards once. They called it a receding hairline. Now, I know this humor is kind of lowbrow. I just can't help it. That hairline is so far back that even biblical historians are having trouble finding it. Now, I'm sure all this hairline humor is starting to wear a bit thin, so it's time to move on. I was having trouble picking which piece of trash from Arizona I was gonna chirp, so I just settled on Max Domi. Probably in the same kind of way the Coyotes management settled on him in the 2013 draft. Like, yo, I guess this is enough to work with. Now, aside from dropping his gloves and beating the shit out of his opponent before they even have a chance to get their gloves off, this guy's done jack shit in the NHL. Honestly, though, I could understand why he's a bit frustrated. The team he's on is terrible, his father's a Neanderthal, and his mom is ridiculously hot, and the whole internet knows it. Hang in there, Max. The Coyotes are on their way up. I couldn't say that with a straight face. The story of Zdeno Chara starts in Roswell, New Mexico in the 1950s, where his ship crash landed. For the next 40 years, he practiced hockey so he could take over the NHL and bring glory to the Anunnaki. Dude looks like an alien, for those of you who are lost right now. Do you guys really think it's a coincidence that Chara was drafted the same year that Independence Day came out? It was all just a big distraction so we wouldn't notice a 6'9" behemoth going in the third round. And no, Marchand is not an alien. That would just give him an excuse to be a piece of trash. I guess it's time to talk about the man-baby Jack Eichel again. This guy has one of the most punchable faces in the NHL, and you could probably get away with punching him. I don't think his team would help. Even the entire city of Buffalo would be like, whatever, it's not McDavid. And you're goddamn right I'm going to keep bringing up that draft because it's way too funny how much you guys got screwed. Pretty soon Buffalo fans are going to be cheering every time Eichel gets laid out just like they cheered every time someone scored on them when they're tanking. Jack Eichel's that one kid that the parents don't love but they're forced to keep him. Now next up we have the Hobbit of the NHL. No, Nathan Gerby, I'm not talking about you. Sit down. I'm talking about Johnny Hockey, one of the best players to ever go in the 4th round. I'm pretty sure he was used to getting passed up that many times, though. I know it's hard out there. Every chick wants a dude who's over 6 feet tall. But I'm sure when you went back to college after being in the NHL, you finally popped your cherry. Oh shit, he just sent me a text telling me to fuck off. Listen here, Mr. Frodo, don't get short with me. I'm gonna arrange a play date for you and Nathan Gerby. Nothing major, it's just a little get-together. This is so goddamn hard to do because I'm only a ½ inch taller than the dude. So I guess the closest thing to a superstar on the Hurricanes is like Jordan Staal? It's gotta suck being the least decorated of all your brothers in the NHL. But hey man, at least you're not Jared. Yes, there is a Jared Staal. Google him because you're never gonna see him in the NHL. Just like Carolina is never gonna see another Staal lift the cup. I mean, it could have happened, Jordan. You just needed to stay on the Penguins. Now, I really wanted to do Jonathan Toews for the Chicago Blackhawks, but Kane just gives me way too much ammunition, and I kinda respect Toews. Almost as much as Patrick Kane respects cab drivers until they give him the wrong amount of change. The real reason the refs broke up that fight between him and Jokinen is because Patrick Kane doesn't fare well when anyone's hitting back. Now I can feel the 2009 Chicago fans getting pissed, so I'm going to put a quick end to this. Just like Nashville did to your playoff dreams. Now on to Matt Duchene over in Colorado. I feel like I gotta chirp this guy now before Tyson Jost takes his spot and he moves on to another team and becomes irrelevant. Or maybe he'll just sit on the 3rd line for a while, because as long as Joe Sakic is asking for a first and an amazing prospect for him, he's not going anywhere. The only person I would consider a superstar in the Columbus Blue Jackets would be Sergei Bobrovsky. And his biggest claim to fame was getting the shit dangled out of him by TJ Oshie in the Olympics. I mean, yeah, he's a favorite to win the Vezina, but that's going to be the only piece of hardware he takes home as long as he's on Columbus. But hey, if you ever want to move on, I'm sure the Dallas Stars will pick you up. Speaking of doubts, we got Jamie Benn up next. The most I really know about this guy is how majestic his hair looks when he's getting punched in the face by Joe Thornton. And that must have given him a bit of a culture shock because right now he's chosen to look like Pidgeotto. I would expect the captain of one of the worst teams in the NHL to be a complete douche, just that's taking it too far. Dylan Larkin of the Detroit Red Wings is forever going to be branded as a cheater. That's right, he took extra steps on that speed competition. You can look up the video. It's an outrage. He did not break that record. Okay, I'm gonna calm down, man. But seriously, fuck you, Dylan Larkin. We move on to Edmonton, the moment so many of you have been holding your breath for, and you know what's coming? That's right, we're gonna talk about Zack Kassian. Alright, yeah, we're talking about McDavid. I guess you could say that joke was, out of line. But I really think you Edmonton fans need to settle down and quit treating this as the second coming and let the kid have his first. McDavid was going so hard for points this year. I think he was trying to match the total amount of pimples that he has on his face. I wouldn't be surprised, man. I mean, you guys know how good he is at math. Oh man, I'm cringing right now when I think about his interviews, but I guess it doesn't matter. When you're that good at hockey, it's okay to be awkward as fuck. The hockey gods are totally gonna send me to hell for this because Jagr is such a goddamn legend, but I just can't help myself. It's kind of like if I was Jagr and these jokes are like a really young Russian supermodel. There could be three things you can be sure of when the apocalypse happens. Keith Richards will still be alive, cockroaches will still exist, and Jaromir Jagr will still be playing hockey. Drew Doughty is probably the biggest pussy in the NHL. There, I said it. We all see the footage, him ducking for his life under that Tkachuk hit. Dude went down faster than LeBron James after every time he gets touched. And he didn't even want to stand up for himself. Everyone's like, oh, Doughty's a star. He shouldn't have to fight Tkachuk. But the way things are trending right now, Doughty would be begging to fight Tkachuk in 1 or 2 years just to stay relevant. Zach Parise is being paid $9 million a year to get sub-50 point seasons. Look how confused Ryan Suter looks because of that. Now, it's really hard to chirp one of the best goaltenders in the league, and yes, I said one of the best because it's pretty hard to judge Carey Price because he's freaking injured all the time. Besides some of his amazing years, anyone else getting a DiPietro vibe off of Carey Price? It's some big shoes to fill getting drafted that early in the first round, but you're kind of running out of excuses at this point, choking in the playoffs. But hey, good news, Carey Price. If you get traded to Colorado, you'll win 2 cups. I'm choosing to do Forsberg for the Nashville Predators because this guy would be amazing if he was on any other team. It's actually relatively hard to find any dirt about this guy because every time I googled his name, a really good player popped up, and it wasn't him. He did just sign a 6-year extension though, so I guess he's perfectly happy playing trap hockey and wasting his talent for the foreseeable future. And before you Nashville fans get too salty at me, maybe you should take some of that energy and channel it into getting your team to show up in the Stanley Cup Finals. Taylor Hall only has 2 marketable skills in the NHL. He can guarantee that your team wins the lottery, and he can elbow Zack Kassian in the face so hard that his nose will actually bleed without a straw up it. Taylor Hall's work won't be done until he secures enough first overall picks to match the amount of extra chromosomes he has. I'm not going to chirp John Tavares because I'm secretly hoping he leaves the Islanders and comes to the Sharks when his contract is up. Instead, I'm going to chirp DiPietro, the worst first overall pick ever. Why, you ask? Well, because technically the Islanders are still paying him. To say that contract was a massive oversight would be an understatement. That contract was so bad that Michael Jackson's suing for royalties from the grave, or from his secret ice palace in Antarctica if you know the truth. You guys are probably sick and tired of hearing me yap about Rick Nash, but I just can't help it. Plus, I feel way too bad for Lundqvist. The last time Rick Nash was a point-per-game player is when he played 18 games in the Swiss League during the lockout. It's honestly getting a bit sad at this point watching him struggle to get up the ice. I don't know why, but I could just picture this guy in a Cialis commercial in about 5 years. Now, I know some Ottawa fans find it outrageous that Bobby Ryan's being paid $7 million to get 25 points. But what you didn't know is his lisp is actually making $250,000. I honestly can't stand watching interviews about this guy because every time he talks, I get a flash flood warning on my phone. The press are pretty much forced to use umbrellas when they talk to him, which would account for all the bad luck the Senators have been having. In the 2006 NHL entry draft, Flyers management forgot the name of the guy they were drafting. I honestly can't think of a better metaphor for Claude Giroux's career. I guess the only thing left to say is, fucking pigeon. I was considering skipping Crosby because he already gets enough hate, but the dude deserves it. I honestly think that only 3 people in this world truly love him. That's his parents and Pierre Maguire. I could have swore I saw Pierre Maguire wearing a brown wig one time, but I guess he just pulled his head out of Sidney Crosby's ass. I mean, it's already not fair how much favoritism the guy gets, but really, did you have to give him the Conn Smythe when he did absolutely nothing? And you can call me salty all you want, and you're probably a little bit right, but I will never, ever be as salty as Gloves Off Hockey. Now we're back to Vladimir Tarasenko, the undeserving recipient of the NHL 17 cover. I mean, we all know our votes don't count and it's all just for publicity anyway. But come on, man, Pavs was clearly the better option. The guy actually shows up in the playoffs. I guess I should be thanking him though, because while he was busy having his picture taken, the Sharks were beating his team in the conference finals. Get fucking wrecked, Tarasenko. You're gonna be the next Ovechkin. And that is not a compliment these days. Speaking of players without cups, Joe Thornton is my next target. Watching this guy fail year after year makes me almost as sad as Patrick Marleau looks constantly. By the way, put a goddamn shirt on when you're being interviewed, man. No one wants to see that flabby man flesh. Thornton is the weirdest out-of-shape, in-shape guy in the NHL. He must be keeping some kind of illegal substance there in his beard. Maybe I should ask David Backes if he felt anything. There's no reason this guy should even be still standing, let alone skating around. Steven Stamkos looks like a straight-up psychopath. I'm sure the only reason this guy hasn't murdered the entire team and coaching staff is because he'd probably get injured if he tried. I've legit just been staring at a picture of him while I say all of this, and I just gotta stop because it's creeping me the fuck out. Austin Matthews, you are not fooling anyone. Either you went through puberty at about age 5 or you are legit a 30-year-old man. Seriously, man, look at a picture of him and McDavid next to each other at the All-Star game. It's a night and day difference. This goes deeper. It's a conspiracy to make the Leafs good again. But like any good Gary Bettman plot, it'll eventually fail because the Leafs will still never have a defense. And until I see a birth certificate, I'm sticking to my story. I don't think there's much of a chance that I could ruin the Sedins image right here as much as they've ruined the Canucks franchise, but I'm going to give it a shot. The real reason these two guys refuse to go separate ways is because they're actually the same person. If they did end up on separate teams, the space-time continuum would break down, shattering the world as we know it. And I know to you Canuck fans, that actually doesn't sound half bad after all the shit you've had to put up with for the past few years. And while you guys may be perfectly happy to welcome in the end of existence, the rest of us have halfway decent teams to watch. So you better suck it up and pay out the rest of that $24 million you owe the two. Alexander Ovechkin is probably never going to win a cup, and while that sounds kind of sad, it's actually funny at the same time. All this bad luck is just karma biting him for never back-checking and playing defense. And this guy's genetics are cursed as well. He's aging like milk. He has one gray hair for every time he fans on a clutch shot in the playoffs. So if you're ever wondering why he looks about 50 years old, that's your answer. Now, just for all you Winnipeg fans out there, I decided to check again to see if Laine may be better than Matthews. And you guys may have a point. You know what I never saw Matthews doing? Scoring on his own net like Laine did. Fuck yeah, son. Own it. Laine's probably the only guy in the NHL hoping that he gets hit in the mouth with a puck. And I gotta admit, if I had teeth like that, I'd want the same. Now, I know this guy was born in Finland, but I don't know how you're gonna tell me that he's not somehow related to Steve Buscemi. If someone ever decides to remake Reservoir Dogs, just please promise me Tarantino will direct it and Patrick Laine is playing Mr. Pink. Well, guys, that'll wrap up this Superstars edition of me chirping everything you know and love. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and if you didn't, well, you're probably not even listening right now. Let me know down in the comments below who you want to hear me chirp next. Remember to give that like button a click before you leave, and as always, I will see you guys in the next one.